So hello everybody and welcome to today's webinar titled The True Value Proposition of the eSIM. My name is Phil Seeley. I'm a Research Director at global technology advisory firm ABI Research, and today's presentation will feature Dayan Rasu, Director of Global Strategic IoT Alliances and OEM from Tata Communications, and Olivia Caron, Senior Director, Application Marketing IoT Security, both of whom we'll hear from a little bit later. So on the agenda today, we will discuss and provide an overview of the different SIM form factors or eSIM form factors, what's happening in the market today as it relates to progress and forecasts, how the eSIM is transforming connectivity and driving disruption, which will be complemented by some examples and use cases, and afterwards we'll have a bit of a Q&A session at the end. And just before I jump in, I just wanted to quickly mention that this webinar is an extension of a white paper which was recently completed. And at the end of this webinar, we will share a link for those of you that wish to gain access and learn a little bit more. So let's get started. So here I just wanted to briefly look at the different definitions. I think even today, the eSIM definition can mean slightly different things to different people. It's still an area of a little bit of confusion. And as such, I just quickly wanted to run over ABI Research's eSIM definition to set coverage expectations and to provide a little more context around what we consider to be an eSIM. So when we're referring to an eSIM, ABI Research is making reference to a combination of both physically embedded or soldered solutions, as well as removable programmable SIMs. So in essence, our eSIM definition covers all SIM form factors, whether that be 2FF, 3FF, MFF, etc. So here we have 2FF, 3FF, and 4FF, and these are removable form factors, which would have remote provisioning capabilities. MFF is a standalone physically embedded or soldered version. The iSIM is a little bit newer, and this is whereby the SIM functionality is integrated into the MCU or application processor level, and essentially is a containerized secure location from which operator profiles can be stored and managed. And finally, there's the monolithic IC or chipset, which is essentially a MFF embedded solution, but it's got some additional functionality alongside that. And most commonly today, that's combined with secure element functionality as an example. So really, it's about the remote provisioning functionality. It's not about the form factor which defines the eSIM. So the key takeaway here, I think, is that embedded by name does not necessarily equate to embedded by nature. But now we're going to jump into some of the forecasts and what we're seeing here at ABI Research and how we believe the market will progress. And I think we have two very distinct markets. We have that of consumer and another of M2M and IoT. And to start with, we're going to look at the consumer market. So as you can see from the graph here, by far the largest consumer segment is that, in terms of volumes anyways, is that of the smartphone category. I think we all know the main devices available today, the Google Pixels and the Apple range of devices. And with continued support by Google alongside blanket support across all Apple devices, and then most recently as well, Samsung announcing its foray into the eSIM market with its Galaxy S20 range of devices. The expectations are that approximately 300 million eSIM-enabled smartphones will be delivered by year's end 2020. I think in terms of the future, I think all eyes are kind of pinned on Samsung and how they might expand eSIM support across some of its other range of devices, most notably the Notes and its A ranges. And as well as Samsung, eSIM support expansion by other OEMs is expected. And for us, we believe that the market will hit around about or just over the $500 million mark by 2023, which represents approximately 30% of all smartphone shipments. Wearables is another eSIM category, of course, and it is we can get wearables today that are eSIM-enabled. Although the wearable is gaining more standalone functionality, I think it's still largely a companion to the smartphone. And again, like the smartphone, it's kind of dominated by the tier ones at the minute, the Apples and the Samsungs of the world. But having said this, the wearables market we consider to be one of great diversity and one that in the future won't be completely dominated by the tier 1 OEMs, but we expect it to expand out into other wearable form factors outside of the smartphone category, including wearable cameras, headphones, sports and fitness trackers, and smart clothing, to give a couple of examples. All this will help grow the eSIM-enabled wearable device shipments from around 13 million in 2019 to near 60 million by 2023. Tablets, again, like the smartphone and smartwatches, that there are already available solutions out there today, most notably the Apple Cellular-enabled iPad Pros, alongside Apple Cellular Kindle range of devices. And we expect this one to grow from approximately 6.4 million to 11.4 million, roughly, as the price differentiation between Wi-Fi only and cellular variants continue to close. Laptops, the final opportunity I'll speak about in the consumer market, is presenting another significant opportunity. In the short term, I think low-level cellular shipment numbers for eSIM-enabled laptops are expected, but moving forward with things such as Microsoft, who have a clear strategy of selling cloud services, and they're looking to seed the market with cellular-enabled laptops with its always connected PC program. This will drive the market towards the 8 million mark by year's end 2020. And in the wake of 5G, there is some strategic targeting by vendors such as Qualcomm, who are looking to take advantage of this. And again, the price between a Wi-Fi only and or cellular-enabled laptop is closing, and we expect that to give the market another boost from around 2022. So overall, from a consumer point of view, this is all great news, right? The market's growing, it's growing relatively quickly. But why are OEMs beginning to push eSIM into their respective consumer device types? Well, I think the fact of the matter is that cellular connectivity and how data is being consumed will transform some consumer subscription models. And this is one of the primary reasons why consumer OEMs are keen to support the eSIM. It is the OEMs that are playing an integral role in facilitating this transformation. And they want to provide flexibility to their consumer devices, create further brand stickiness by enabling a cellular family of connected products, and cross-device mirrored experiences using the eSIM as the enabling technology. And I think alongside this is an understanding from the OEMs that subscription offerings are evolving. I think many years ago, we began with subscriptions being pinned to voice packages. Today, we're kind of in the realms of data-orientated packages, but this will shift towards device bundles and the creation of cellular families of branded products across things such as smartphones, wearables, tablets, and laptops. And it's this family of connected devices that requires remote subscription management or remote provisioning in order to share that operator profile in a secure manner across multiple device types, using the smartphone, I would say, as the central connectivity hub, extending anytime, anywhere access, and mirroring digital content and experiences across other devices such as wearables and tablets, and then pushing that towards other devices, including laptops, for those applications which may require a little bit more processing power. So shifting gears, we're going to now take a little bit of a closer look at the M2M and IoT markets. Automotive to date has taken the lion's share of eSIM adoption within this category. But this should come as no surprise, given the fact that eSIM was specifically developed with automotive in mind. The automotive sector did receive a significant boost in the wake of the eCall initiative, and this required all consumer vehicles within the European Union to integrate an eSIM in order to automate communication to emergency services in the event of an accident or an emergency. So back in 2018, automotive eSIM shipments stood at around 50 million, but the ability to utilize an eSIM for over-the-air firmware updates to help reduce things such as product recall, as well as for infotainment purposes, and for V2X via 5G for vehicle-to-vehicle and vehicle-to-infrastructure communications, in future autonomous or ride-hailing, for safety and for smart city applications. will help OEMs realize that sort of safety and autonomy ambitions, and will help grow shipment levels to exceed the 100 million mark by 2023. From an energy management perspective, I think we're already seeing significant movement in cellular-enabled smart meters, and there's many initiatives already underway around the world. We have examples such as in India or Sweden, Belgium, and the Netherlands, and these are all at various stages of completion. Now, I think it's fair to say that not all those projects today are using an eSIM form factor, but the eSIM is considered a natural evolutionary step to ensure future-proof flexibility, guarantee connectivity, even in the most rural of areas, and all of which without the need to physically send somebody out to read a meter or to replace a SIM card if required. We know that tenders for eSIM smart meters are already in the mix; they're already out there. And it's ABI Research's expectations that these tenders will translate into significant volumes, moving the market from 7 to 7.5 million units in 2018 to above 30 million by 2023. Asset tracking is another market which is spoken about quite often. It's one for us that has considerable diversity. It cuts across multiple different end markets and industries. The market could include applications which cover high value field assets, which could be integral to an enterprise, continued operations. It could even be containers or pallets to help track or trace items, and I think in some instances as well, could be used to provide further accuracy and trust as it relates to supply chains and inventory management applications. And then we have this others category, and much like asset tracking, this is a very diverse area, but it's one that ABI Research considers to be a longer term opportunity. Of course, mobility, I would say, is a key theme across multiple end markets, and the eSIM lends itself well to that. But although eSIM will primarily be used to address mobile things or things that are on the move, it will also have a place in some fixed position devices or things. But primarily it is mobile stuff that dominates the others category, which includes for us things such as other transport covering fleet management applications, applications across public mass transit such as trains, subways, as well as planes. There's an opportunity there for banking and retail as it relates to ATM machines, POSs, and kiosks. There's multiple devices within the healthcare realms to enable remote monitoring of patients. Portable gaming devices, connected toys, speakers, industrial grade modems and routers are just a couple of examples which the eSIM could lend itself well to. So that's it from a marking sizing perspective, but why are M2M IoT sort of OEMs, service providers and enterprises for that matter looking towards eSIM, and what does it mean for them, and how can they sort of benefit from this disruption? With that said, from a disruptive point of view, I've kind of broken it down into three buckets. And I want to talk about those three buckets in a little bit more detail, and those are the buckets of remote management capabilities and automation, operational efficiencies, and of course enterprise strategies and ambitions. So I'm going to start with remote management and automation, and what that can mean for an enterprise and how that can benefit them. So there's many examples, and I'll give a few, but there is the ability to combine cellular with other technologies such as AI to enable real-time decision making, and this can give new levels of autonomy and automation. Remote monitoring is also a critical aspect as it relates to applications where safety or maintenance are certainly a prerequisite or a requirement. It improves or can improve device visibility and, for that matter, control, and enable sort of simultaneous management and monitoring of devices within a fleet, which is very important as we move from the millions of things to the billions of things. And it's these remote management and automation capabilities that feed directly into that operational efficiencies aspect, and it helps enterprises sort of realize some of the cost efficiencies as it relates to getting access to cost-effective connectivity, and also using the remote management and automation to realize other efficiencies across their businesses or organizations. And to give a couple more examples on this aspect in terms of what can be achieved, there's the ability to potentially identify and resolve network issues more effectively and efficiently. I mentioned before the ability to combine with other technologies such as AI, and this gives the ability to access real-time trusted data, which can help service providers improve their respective services and overall just become more responsive. And of course, digitization, and this just helps reduce the reliance on the physical or human intervention as it relates to updates, patching, product recalls, and the management of those things and devices as a couple of examples. And it's both the remote management capabilities, automation, and the ability to realize operational efficiencies, which feeds nicely and directly into enterprise strategy and ambitions. The eSIM used as that platform to enable that. To give a couple of examples in terms of how that feeds into, the eSIM can obviously guarantee high quality and reliable connectivity to help improve service and user experience. It can also help with global expansion strategies, which is very important, using the eSIM to enable borderless connectivity enablement, which helps also eliminate operator lock-in. That obviously, if you're globally expanding, helps organizations and enterprises enter new markets which may have previously remained out of reach due to the complexities related to cellular enablement. And even for startups, eSIM can help a startup compete on a more level playing field as it relates to cellular device enablement. So essentially, overall, these three buckets lend themselves very nicely to connectivity vendors who can essentially act as a one-stop shop to enable global connectivity enablement, and those that already have pre-agreed connectivity price points, and those that are operator agnostic. Now we're going to move on to some of the requirements and how that maps to some of the end goals as it relates to what's trying to be achieved here. So you'll see that all the items on the left are cellular connectivity requirements. In all honesty, I don't think there's anything too new here, but the fact is that the eSIM can help enhance these requirements as it relates to reliability, scalability, quality, flexibility, and simplicity. And it's these enhancements to the requirements enabled by eSIM which will drive the type of end results enterprises are looking for. So I've already mentioned, but connectivity is now changing, and the way in which people manage, interact, and engage with their things or devices is changing, but also how business is interacting with their end users is changing. So in order to realize this and realize some of these end results as it relates to borderless connectivity enablement, improved service and experience, global expansion, ambitions, and digital transformation, enterprises need to embrace eSIM and subsequent digital transformation in order to enable these end results and in order to remain relevant and competitive in the cellular world. On the theme of remaining sort of relevant is this shift of simply supplying data from an operator perspective, or being sort of a tunnel for data, towards the supply and ability to offer other services to help manage a complete life cycle of a device or a fleet of things. And it can cover aspects such as security, secure over-the-air updates, patching, authentication, identity. There's a great large list there. I'm not going to name them all. But the point here is that profile switching for the eSIM, it is certainly one major aspect which plays to the advantage of eSIM, but in no way, shape or form is the benefits of eSIM limited to this. And I think some of the real value lies in some of the other eSIM capabilities, which are outlined here, what it can enable. And this has opened up the opportunity for new revenue channels via the creation of complementary platforms and services. And that's paved the way for a shift in market dynamics, which has largely been from a SIM perspective anyways, has largely been dominated by hardware revenue growth to date. And this we now see shifting and pivoting towards a reoccurring revenue model by the creation of new innovative subscription services, thanks to the remote provisioning or remote subscription management capabilities, which is opening up this connectivity as a service opportunity. So for ABI Research, the eSIM is certainly shifting the goalposts with connectivity vendors and those operating within the cellular ecosystem, now pairing hardware-based components with additional services and platforms, with the goal of being able to offer an agnostic approach to cellular connectivity in a simple and flexible manner, whilst providing complementary services to help better manage those devices and things across their complete life cycle. So from that point of view, that kind of concludes my part of the presentation. And at this stage, I'm going to hand over to Olivier Caron of Infineon, and also Diane Rashu, who will speak to some of the vertical value creation eSIM can offer and the common denominators as it relates to eSIM enablement across multiple verticals, before diving into a couple of examples. So thank you and welcome, Olivier, welcome, Diane, and at this stage, it's over to you.
Thank you very much, Phil. Hello, everyone. This is Olivier from Infineon. So I guess that you all know what an eSIM with remote provisioning capability is about now. So basically, this is a reprogrammable SIM on which you can download an entirely new profile with new applet, keys, and configuration, eventually. It means that you can download a third-party mobile network operator profile into the same eSIM hardware. In other words, no hard lock-in to the mobile network operator anymore. As already said by Phil at the beginning, the eSIM technology was adopted by the automotive OEM. They immediately understood the benefit. But the good thing is that every OEMs can now leverage the work initiated by the automotive industry, and we can use it for all of those segments. So eSIM is very valuable asset for many device makers or system integrators with no limitation to a specific application or vertical. You will find few application example on the slide. So in the square boxes here, but of course, eSIM is not limited to those one. The eSIM technology indeed perfectly fits with devices in the move like automotive, such as tracker devices, so GPS-based devices that we can find in aftermarket automotive, but also for kids and pets tracking devices or healthcare devices. But we also see growing interest from companies in the field of smart home with devices like alarm system, air conditioning equipment, access control readers, but also from smart city segments. And without forgetting the smart energy with smart meters and also industry automation related devices. And if we look at all those applications, actually, we see that they are sharing the same requirement or common denominator. To give you an example, I recently visited a customers who is designing and manufacturing asset tracker devices. And this manufacturer is aiming at, it's a number one, optimizing its design by reducing the footprint on the printed circuit board. So they want to have very tiny device, and in that case, the removable SIM connector is not an option anymore. Number two, they want to simplify the logistics, having one single queue. And number three, they want to increase the level of functionality and maximize the interoperability. While, of course, they want to keep the cost as low as possible. And so for us, this is not a big surprise because actually, majority of OEMs, independently of the segments or application, are all looking at the same things and they are sharing the same requirements. So what you see on the slide here is actually valid for most of the application and segments. In the case of the white label asset tracking device, the manufacturer cannot really predict where, when, and how much data will be consumed by the user. Because this is an information which is known only after the device has been deployed. So we cannot preload the device with the requested data plan when we're manufacturing the devices and before the device is shipped to the customer. So for such a B2B2C business case, Infineon can provide an eSIM to the OEM, which is pre-provisioned with a bootstrap profile from Tata Mobile. And this is a temporary profile which offers out-of-the-box connectivity, which then allow the real user of the connectivity, which is usually the system integrator or service provider, to personalize the eSIM with a tailored profile after the in-country deployment. And this actually answers the needs of having a single SKU and for global out-of-the-box cellular service personalization, regardless of market segments and verticals. So the customer or fleet manager can then have a comprehensive access to a kind of evolving partner ecosystem and can load either a global profile or local profile whenever regulation is asking for it. So as a matter of fact, beside offering a future-proof connectivity and reliable connectivity, this is also enabling new business model and new revenue streams. So actually, the way it works is that we pre-provision the SIM card with a profile from Tata Communications. This eSIM is mounted on the board, and then eventually the printed circuit board is integrated into a final device. And at that time, you don't need to know already what data plan is needed, where the device will be operating. And this is only after deployment that, thanks to the platform of Tata Communications, you will have the ability to load a profile that is really fitting the customer needs. Dayan, maybe I can hand over to you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. This is Dayan from Tata Communications. And just to add a few additional points to what already Olivier and Phil have very nicely said. To come back to the shifting market dynamics from hardware sales over to service, I can also provide an example which will further explain everything that also Olivier has said. This is one of the largest OEMs in the world, and what they've seen was an increasing pressure on hardware pricing, so they've decided to go into vertical service providing. The point was that they needed a global SKU, and also another issue was that in order to sell their service, some of their end customers had their own opinion or their own contracts with MNOs in given countries. And for other countries, some of their end customers didn't really care who the connectivity provider was, as long as the overall operational efficiency and the cost was at the right level. So with us, they were able to receive a single hardware reference design and a service reference design to enable them to, well, basically to deliver both use cases, especially because of the fact that Tata Communications has interworking with multiple RSP platforms in the backend, so we can deliver seamless service without the need of additional technical integrations once the local ecosystem has been qualified and identified in a given country. The same thing I could also say, for example, for energy management. There is also a large gateway manufacturer that thus far has been actually creating gateways that have a dual SIM slot for similar reasons as the previous example. And with the eSIM, not only have they been able to reduce the size, but also make it encapsulated so it's actually waterproof and other things. And with the eSIM and the combined capability of Infineon and Tata, we are helping them deliver again similar use cases to the previous example that I have given. So those would be just two additional examples that I would give here. So back over to you, Phil, for the Q&A, or Olivier, if you've got any closing words.
Yes, to jump into a few questions, just going to jump straight in here. So we've got 3 or 4 questions here that I'm going to put to Olivier and Diane. So just jumping straight in to the first question. I think, eSIM technology, it does continue to grab the headlines. For me, it's something that is extremely important as it relates to the creation of borderless connectivity and new levels of, or enabling new levels of digital transformation. But from your perspective, why is eSIM an important technology, and why should OEMs and service providers and enterprises be looking towards eSIM enablement and support? And Diane, perhaps we could start with you.
Diane, if you don't mind, eventually
sure.
I can start to answer. So,
of course.
So why should OEM and service provider be looking toward eSIM support? So as already said, beside the bill of material and device size optimization, we see that many M2M OEMs are building devices which for many of them have a lifetime which is by far exceeding the one we are seeing in the consumer devices. So it's not anymore 2 to 3 years lifetime, but it's more about achieving 10, 15 years, sometimes even more lifetime of a device. So the products are manufactured with a high level of quality to last for such a long time without having to maintain or repair the device. The thing is that if the cellular connectivity is part of the service, and if the mobile network operator who provided this service, and for some reason the contract with this connectivity partner ends, or if the roaming agreement are not valid anymore in the country of operation, the manufacturer will have to send someone at its own expense, and that expense could eventually be much more expensive than the cost of the device itself, to replace the SIM on that device, assuming that the SIM is not soldered on the device. And assuming also that this person that's going to go to replace the SIM has access to that device. So sometimes the device is locked behind a grid or door, and you need to find the key. So it's quite often a nightmare to maintain such a device. So for Infineon, eSIM is also an insurance that the device lifetime will not be dependent anymore of the connectivity provider capability or capacity. So this is for us a good way, a good insurance. Diane, maybe if you want to add something on this.
Yeah, but I completely agree on the hardware point of view. You're right on point. It also, from a Tata Communications point of view, since we provide digital infrastructure and cellular and the remote SIM provisioning is a value-added application on top. We want to also make sure that our platform is able to serve our partners or the enterprise later on the road, 10 years from now, if and when in a specific country they would like to bring their own deal or add additional functionalities, or as a matter of fact, perhaps upgrade to a 5G service or a 4G service if they're on 3G currently. All of those things are made available because this is a standard implementation from a technical point of view on both hardware and service levels, and secondly, also because of the combination of what Infineon and Tata can provide, we both will be able to have a guarantee that we will be able to serve our customers on the same device, delivering new services or enabling new services. And cellular is pervasive, which means that it is the best choice to deliver such value.
Excellent. Yeah. No, thank you both for answering. Any other comments? Otherwise, I can jump to question 2.
No, I'm okay jumping.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. So this is something I get asked quite commonly as well. In terms of the solutions that you're offering, they do seem very similar to others that are available out there today. So to that point, what makes the Tata stroke Infineon solution different? And Olivia, I think for this one, we'll start with you.
Yes, so this is a very valid question. So actually, from a technology standpoint, there is nothing really different as we are delivering a standard compliance solution. So the standard has been defined by the GSMA. So it's here to guarantee the interoperability among the different vendors. However, Tata can deliver the global connectivity at scale, and unlike other in the lineup, as Tata has shown that they can deliver structures and pervasive support and value when it's needed in some of the difficult markets. When it comes, for example, to permanent roaming, like in the countries as Brazil and Russia, Turkey, and some others, this is because of the Tata legacy business of providing the digital infrastructure. This allows them to have a physical infrastructure present in the given territories. And they have been delivering digital services there for a long time already. In addition, no one else from the lineup provides remote SIM provisioning support for free, and from what I've heard, soon 4 EU ICC vendors without the need to procure additional remote provisioning platform components. And the technical infrastructure and interworking is already present through the Tata eSIM hub. So the combination of the Infineon scale and the reach and the capacity of Tata to deliver and serve all customers everywhere in the world, we believe this is a very strong asset.
Okay, excellent. No, thank you very much. Another question here, third question. From a product or solutions perspective, how does Optiga, which is obviously an Infineon solution, how is it any different from the other eSIMs that are offered by vendors such as Gemalto, Idemia, and G&D? And I think rather than getting the Infineon representative, Olivier, to answer this one, it would be quite good to get a point of view from Diane from Tata.
Yeah, sure. Yes, it is a valid question, and it's fun to answer. Well, again, from a standards point of view, there is no difference. But what does make the difference is the fact that Infineon understands the OEMs and the ODMs much better than legacy players. What you need to understand is that legacy players, no matter how apt they might seem in the OEM and ODM space, still 80 to 85% of all of their business comes from tier 1 MNOs or from service providers. On the other hand, Infineon has been delivering secure elements, sensors, MCUs, and other microelectronics to the same OEMs and ODMs or device makers that are today, let's say, dominating the M2M device space. So, as a semiconductor company, Infineon has got the scale to reach the OpEx optimization, so that we can keep the price at the requested levels. Because of the scale that Infineon has, we can serve smaller and larger customers pretty much in the same way and with the same quality, which is not the case when you look at some of the other legacy players. So in the common meetings that we've had, it was obvious that OEMs and ODMs have been requesting Infineon to create a product of this kind because it was obvious also to them. And because from an OEM and ODM perspective, it's just an organic growth of the relationship that they've had for decades already. So those capacities and that kind of relationship is something that Tata values very highly. The combination of Infineon, their scale, the Optiga product, and some of the other complementary services when it comes to zero trust provisioning, when it comes to other hardware-based security applications, also combined with what Tata can deliver, provides also a roadmap that is currently very hardly matched in the marketplace.
Excellent. Thank you, Diane. Excellent answer. And I think we've probably got time for one more question. So, you know, if I was an interested OEM, who should I speak to? You know, who should I contract with? It'd be great to get some thoughts around that.
Olivier, you want to go? Do you want me to answer this one?
No, please answer.
Okay, that's fine. So, Phil, as you know, I mean, one of the reasons why IoT has not taken off as everybody has expected is because everybody was stacking margin to a point where it really made no sense. I mean, at scale, especially, the business model seemed to have, fallen through the cracks or fallen off the cliff. So, since we don't do any, we don't want to do the margin stacking. So, the answer to this question is, if you're already in touch with Infineon, talk to Infineon about this. If you're already in touch with Tata, you can talk to Tata about this. So we will keep the contract separate, and you will keep, the commercial and the legal relationship that you have completely separate from Infineon delivering the hardware and the enablement, and Tata delivering their own core services. So the customer management and everything is a focused tiger team in between Infineon and Tata. But when it comes to the actual implementation of the contracts, you can choose either or you can choose to piggyback off of the existing relationship that you have. So feel free to contact either organization. We will serve you in the same way. I think that was my answer.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, no, extremely clear. Thank you very much for answering that question. Olivier, unless there's anything to add?
No, nothing to add. It was well described by Diane. So
excellent.
Just a mechanism come to Infineon or Tata.
Yes, excellent. Thank you very much. So with that said, thanks Diane, thanks Olivier for answering some of those questions, some of which are a little bit challenging, and some quite fun questions there as well. But with that said, I think the time has come. It's now probably a good time to close out this webinar. But before I do, I quickly just wanted to draw your attention to the white paper link, which can be located on this last slide here by clicking the title, The True Value Proposition of the eSIM. And this will take you to the associated white paper, which can be downloaded should you wish to learn more. So that concludes today's webinar. Of course, I'd like to thank Diane and Olivier for their participation, and like to thank you all for joining. So thanks again, and hope you all have a fantastic day. Thank you.